What I want to talk to you about today is what is wrong with the traditional model of success for men. I want to talk to you about how the personal growth industry is actually making success really hard for men, and how most men's coaching is actually perpetuating a problem that keeps men stuck and feeling like they can never actually achieve what they want. So what I've noticed about success for most men and how it's perpetuated, what I sometimes call the white picket fence of success or the facade of success, is that most men have a model of success that says, when I finally reach the end destination, when I finally have the millions of dollars, when I finally have the Lamborghini, when I finally have the abs, when I finally have the relationship, then I'm successful. And I want to be clear, I'm not against any of those things. In fact, I have most of those things, and I'm a big fan of most of those things. But part of what's missing is that we go about getting those things wrong, and it keeps us, one, stuck from actually achieving them, and two, miserable even once we do have them. The traditional men's success and personal growth industry perpetuate, one, taking a lot of responsibility, two, really hard work, and three, having really consistent habits. And often they'll yell at you really loud like this, and you gotta do this thing, and there's things about hard work and responsibility and all that's a great message on the surface. It's actually what you need to get started. If you're unsuccessful laying on the couch eating Cheetos and you need to get off your ass and make your first 10K a month, that's a great message. But beyond that, what I've noticed in my life and what I've noticed from my clients and what I've noticed for men, and if you're listening to this and you're a man, you need to hear this. What gets you the initial level of success, the hard work, the responsibility, is not the whole picture of how you get to results. And often trying to take more responsibility, trying to just work harder towards success, actually keeps you really stuck. It keeps you stuck in what I call the facade of success. Let me go a little bit deeper. What do I mean by the facade of success? You see, most men go about creating success completely wrong. If you're listening to this, you're probably going about creating success completely wrong. You're coming at it from a place that is, even though you have a big vision, the vision is not rooted in what you actually want. How do I know this? Because I lived this for so many years. You see, most men start their lives experiencing some level of pain. For me, what that looked like, I was bullied growing up. I was insecure around women. I grew up around addiction. I was abused as a boy. And all these things layered in my early childhood created a version of me that was in pain. And for so long, I wandered around in pain until I was about age 12. At age 12, the first thing I found out is, one, I was actually pretty smart, so I started doing good in school. And I started developing an identity around doing good in school. The second thing I figured out is I found the gym at about age 12, 13, and I started working out, and I figured out I could change my body. And all these things started developing a confidence. And next thing you know, I was a little bit more confident around women. And all these things started stacking. And what I noticed is I started feeling better. I started feeling like I was more confident and more able in the world when I was having all these external successes. And again, there's nothing wrong with external success, but here's where this led. Is I never actually addressed the core insecurities I was feeling. I just started papering over it with good grades and a fit body and sleeping with a bunch of women. And as I matured and got older, it compounded and compounded and compounded. And it led to drug use and steroid use and sex addiction. And all these things led to a extreme version of trying to reach these end destinations because I was coming at it from a place that was insecure. Now, again, responsibility, hard work, great things. But when we are insecure in our vision and we're coming at something in order to cover up our lack of feeling good inside, what ends up happening is we become blinded by our vision. We end up running toward things in a way that is not serving us, not actually creating the life we want. We're creating almost like a caricature. That's what we're creating. It's like we're creating a caricature. It's like you're creating a caricature of the life you actually want. And all of a sudden you're this big jack buff guy who's got this hot woman on your arm and you're in the Lamborghini. And anyone who's paying attention can see right through the insecurity, how he's wearing all these things because he's trying to mask the fact that he's a hurt little boy inside. And I think that is such a bullshit way to live. But the challenge is that's a really hard thing to admit to yourself if you're living it. And it's a really hard thing to even see until somebody has a conversation like this with you and say, hey man, all those things can be great. Fitness, abs, money, business, all those things. Go for it, create it, actually go far beyond what everyone else is doing, but stop doing it from a place of insecurity, because what ends up happening is you end up working so hard that you actually miss the obvious pivots to make along the way. You become blinded by your attachment to the vision. What does that look like? I'll give you an example. So I'll give you an example from my life. I was 25 years old. I had invested probably about 500 grand into my personal development at that point. I had quit my job, went full in on my business, started making multiple $100,000s per year. I now had a multi-7-figure business. I had just scaled it to 8 figures that year. And I was engaged to be married. I was in great shape. I was traveling the world. I was working about 5 hours a week from the beach. I thought I had it made. I thought I had success. But what the truth was is that I had what I now call the facade of success, the white picket fence version of success that was actually built on bullshit and lies. And I was lying to myself, but I was attached to the false sense of security all of these external results were giving me. The problem is that I was running so fast to create these things, working so hard, putting in so much effort, so focused on my habits, so committed to taking responsibility for my life, and really, in a better word for it, is controlling my life, because if I felt like I wasn't in control, that my life was spinning out of control. The truth was I was a control freak. The truth is if you're listening to this and this is resonating, you're a control freak. Are you sick of controlling things and feeling like you have to micromanage everything and you're wondering why you're always stressed out? This is why you feel like you need to control every fucking thing in your life. And that's exactly where I was. I felt like I need to control everything in my life. So I felt like I had to rush my way to success. And I had created it. I had the successful life. I had what everyone says they want. The problem is that I was miserable. I remember a time that I was on vacation in Florida, and I was up 20 stories, and I'm on maybe the 6th or 8th floor right now, but I was up 20 stories, and I was leaning against the balcony like this, looking over it, looking down 20 stories. And the thought I had in my head that just popped into my head all of a sudden was, maybe you should jump. And in that moment, I had to back away from the railing. And I said, where the heck did that come from? How have I gotten so off track that there's a thought that's popping through my head that maybe I should jump off a building? My life seems like it's perfect. What's going on? And this caused me to start digging and searching and wondering why how I had gotten so off track, how I was having these conflicting feelings of life seems so good, yet maybe it's not. maybe I'm actually miserable inside. Maybe there's actually a part of me that's even questioning suicidal thoughts. What is going on? And as I started peeling back the layers and asking those questions, I realized I had been lying to myself. You see, you're often lying to yourself. You're often bullshitting yourself about how good you feel and how well things are going. I had a lot of success. I had multi-millions, and all the things I shared was great. But the truth was, there was also a lot of things that weren't working because I had rushed to the outcome. I had skipped crucial foundation building steps in my rush to get to the destination. And what did that create? That created a really big business with business partnerships that felt totally incongruent, that weren't really working. I remember a time when I was in a meeting with my business partners, and I was talking about how I was going on this trip, and I could feel them getting tense and kind of getting resentful and getting a little bit angry because they didn't travel like I did. They didn't create the freedom like I did. I had business partners, and we all had multiple businesses, and they all worked their ass off. They were all, truthfully, living exactly how I'm talking I don't suggest to live, and the same bullshit I was living in. And in this conversation and in this place where I was sharing this trip I was excited about going on, all of a sudden I felt this guilt coming on. Maybe I shouldn't go on this trip because maybe I'm not pouring into the business, even though I was doing everything in the business that was causing it to scale. I was doing everything required. I had created teams and systems, but they were stuck in a paradigm of hard work, and I was evolving to a paradigm of freedom, of living a life I actually enjoyed. But I was still in the trap too, because I had built my whole life, my whole foundations on a business partnership or a set of business partnerships that weren't true, that didn't actually work anymore. And they didn't work anymore, but I was so attached to rushing to the destination that I wasn't willing to acknowledge that. So that was one example. Another example, I was so busy working and growing and building and doing all my habits that I had completely neglected my relationship. I was in a 7-year relationship. I was engaged to be married, but I wasn't present in the relationship. I wasn't pouring into the relationship. I had become a taker in the relationship. And naturally, we drifted apart. And over time, she started looking in other directions for the attention that I obviously wasn't giving her. And of course, she has her own responsibility to not do things like this. But the truth is, she was fucking other dudes. She was sleeping with other guys. And I got to find that out. So here I am. I have this seemingly amazing life, but my fiance is sleeping with other dudes. And I have the next $30 million real estate deal come across my plate that's teed up. I could be doing it with 5 hours a week, but I'm sick of the dynamics created with my business partners and the dynamics of feeling obligated to a business that I no longer cared about. So I said no to the next business deal. And all of a sudden, my life was slowly coming apart. Another thing, I had been so busy building a life and foundations in a place that I didn't even like living. I was stuck living in a shitty little town in Canada that I didn't like living in, but I had created these foundations. I had this house and all this real estate and all these deals and all these business partnerships. I was so busy running toward creating the life that I thought I wanted that I had missed the foundational steps, and I ended up creating the facade of success instead of the real thing. So I had to stop, look at my life, dismantle a bunch of it, and I really started searching. I started asking, how did I get this so wrong? How could I have spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on personal growth and still have made these mistakes? A lot of these people were teaching fulfillment, were teaching long-term success, were claiming they had the answers, but when I started looking at the truth of their lives, excuse me, when I started looking at the truth of their lives, I saw a mirror. I saw a reflection. I saw, oh shit, they're living exactly what I have started to create. They have all these subtle little compromises going on in their lives. They teach health and fitness, but the truth is they're pumped full of steroids. They teach wealth, but the truth is they have no work-life balance. They work like 60 hours a week, and they don't actually like it, and they're neglecting their family and their relationships just like I was. And I had become a byproduct of exactly what I was learning. Again, responsibility, hard work, having good habits, all great foundational things and things that you need to learn if you're struggling to go from not making much to 5 or 10 or 20K a month. But there comes a point where you've gotten into the hard work and you understand good habits and you understand how to take responsibility, that you need to understand that there's a different path. And this was the point I was at. I was searching for the different path, the path beyond just more hard work and more putting my head down and more good habits. A path that actually leads to the thing that I want. What did I want? What do you want? And this is actually fundamentally part of the problem, is no one had actually asked me, gotten to the core of what do you actually want, Parker? Not what does the hurt little boy within you want because he's trying to prove the girl that rejected him in grade 7 wrong, or he's trying to prove to he's good enough to his dad, or he's trying to get acceptance from his peers so he needs all these things. No. What do you actually want? What actually matters to you? What do you actually want your life to be about? What do you actually give a fuck about? I had never asked myself these questions. I had never asked them and actually sat with them. Sure, I had written out my goals and my vision, but every time I wrote those out, I was just writing out, I was spewing out a societal and peer group and spewing out the goals of what I thought I was supposed to be instead of what I actually wanted to be. And that led to where I was. So I was in this place, I was in this dilemma. And I finally started searching. And I searched all over the place. I started looking at Eastern philosophies and things like meditation and energy work. I started taking therapy and did, I don't know, probably 500 sessions of 500 hours of therapy. I did everything, and I still felt like I was feeling this problem. It was like, what the fuck? Because on one hand, I had all of this extreme success talk. Go bigger, go harder, take more responsibility, do more habits. And on the other hand, I had this stuff that felt kind of airy and impractical to me. It's like, how many therapy sessions do I need to finally be fixed? Like, how much, it's all this meditation is great, but I can't meditate on the results of my life when I'm just busy meditating. I'm not actually growing a business. I'm not actually doing, what do I need to do here? It feels like on one hand, there's an obsession with success. And on the other hand, there's a false version of success. And on the other hand, there's an obsession with, I'm just going to feel good and it's all good, man. You don't got to worry about anything. And maybe we'll smoke a joint too. And both of those versions of living felt like bullshit to me. It felt like one was an overcompensation trying to make up for insecurity, and the other was an avoidance of one's responsibility and actually going for it in life. Neither of them felt congruent. So I started searching. And I was searching, and at this point, I was probably $1 million into the search of how do I actually live the life I want to live, because nobody seems to be teaching this shit. And that's part of why I'm so passionate about this. Nobody seems to be sharing this message, even though at this point it's become obvious to me what the solution is, but it wasn't back then. And I remember a point where I finally was, and it was a strange place to hear it. I was listening to an old tape from Alcoholics Anonymous, and I've been part of different addiction recovery things throughout my journey, and have had addictions that I've overcome. And I was listening to this old tape of this OG kind of Alcoholics Anonymous speaker. And he said something in passing, and I don't think it was really related to what I took it to mean, but it kind of, things dropped into place. He was talking about some ancient wisdom. And the ancient wisdom was from the Bible. So he was talking about how going into King Solomon's temple, and again, I'll probably won't get this exact, but you'll get the gist enough. Like, I won't get it exact from a biblical reference perspective, but you'll get the essence of the point I'm looking to convey. So he's talking about how going into King Solomon's temple, there was 2 pillars before the gates to the entrance of the temple. And one pillar represented essentially standards or justice or going harder. And the other pillar represented mercy or grace or unconditional love. And it's interesting that you had to walk between these 2 pillars in order to walk into the temple. And all these things started like unfolding before me. It was like my life, it was like, holy shit, this is the problem I've been facing. I've been outside of the 2 pillars, and no wonder I haven't ended up in the temple of the life that I wanted to create. On one hand, I've been going so hard into all these esoteric practices, and they weren't actually creating any real results. On the other hand, I'd get into seasons where I'd go so hard on habits and working harder and taking more responsibility and doing the thing, and then only to find out that I was burnt out, feeling like my life was falling apart, because I was just working my ass off trying to keep my business held together with duct tape and glue so I could just grow it to the next level. And I want you to ask yourself, are you in this place? Have you been working your ass off and the truth is you're a little bit burnt out? Do you feel like, sure, you have more in the tank because that's who you are and you can work harder, but you've been doing this for a long ass time and you still aren't where you want to go? Actually stop and think about this for a second, because that's the problem. Is I was in this stage and you're probably in this stage. You've probably been working your ass off. You're on the edge of burnout all the time, but you don't want to admit it because you're so attached to meeting the goal, and yet you still don't have it. Doing more of the same thing and expecting a different result is literally the definition of insanity. And that's how I was living, and if this is resonating, there's a great chance you might be living like that. But the problem is that it's so easy to bullshit yourself when you're in this place. Even today, I need to be mindful and aware and paying attention to myself that I don't fall into the trap, that I'm actually walking between the 2 pillars. It's so easy to fall into either side, where you're pretending that you're being connected, that you're doing the meditation and the therapy, and really what you're doing is avoiding the things you need to be focused on, and you're avoiding the things you're fearful of by keeping yourself busy. On the other side, you can be working your ass off, doing all the habits, working 50-hour weeks, taking more responsibility, listening to the men's coach that are yelling at you, you got to really work fucking hard and you should go to military camp. You can do all those things, but you just end up burnt out, because there's far more to success than just working harder. There's leverage in your business. There's higher paradigm ways of going about solving your problems. There's a seeing what's right in front of you that you're actually blinded to because you've been working so hard. I'll give you an example. If you've ever been missing your keys and you don't know where to find them, and you're in a rush, you got to get to a place really fast, but you're missing your keys, and all of a sudden you're turning your house inside out, and you're looking at all the drawers and you're looking at all the things. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you. It's happened to me before, where they've literally been in my pocket, or they're like right beside my bed on my nightstand table, like in a really obvious spot, but because I'm in such a rush, I can't see what's right in fucking front of me. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but if it has, it's a great example of what we end up doing in our life. We're in such a rush to get to the thing we need to do, we think we need to do to finally get the thing, because we're insecure, because we grew up as hurt little boys, and everyone has a certain level of trauma in their life. You have a certain level of trauma in your life, and if you haven't addressed it, it's probably running you. You're the 5-year-old version of you, the 15-year-old version of you, you're behaving as him when you're in this rushing state. And it keeps you blind, just like the guy who can't find his keys, just like when you can't find your keys. It keeps you blind to obvious solutions right in fucking front of you. So what do? And this becomes the question, because most people teach, what do you do when you're in that state? Well, you just go over here again, and you meditate, and you go to therapy. I mean, you should journal more, man, and just chill out, bro. No, you know what you need? You need some ayahuasca. That'll solve it, bro. And that solution can be bullshit too. The real solution is, the truth is, there's a narrow passage between the two pillars of standards and raising your fucking game, and a level of grace for yourself and a level of inner work that deals with the inner child inside and the pain you felt in the past and the more esoteric side of life. And the challenge is actually learning how to navigate between the two pillars and find your way into the temple of the life you actually want to create. Now, I've talked about the problem, I've talked about part of how we got there, I've talked about how it's showing up in my life, I've talked about how it might be showing up in your life. And my question for you is this what's happening? Are you oscillating between periods of working your ass off, working your ass off, working your ass off, and then finally getting burnt out, and then you head over here on the outside of the other pillar, and you're like, man, you know what, maybe this isn't even worth it. Maybe I should chill out. Maybe I need to go out in nature, or maybe I should just maybe I don't have to work so hard. Maybe I should it's okay to watch some TV. It's okay to, and this is the other thing. I want to get into this. The other thing is that so often we end up working our ass off so hard for so long that we end up burning out. But we don't want to admit it. We just want to work harder. So that starts like a water balloon effect, and it pops out in a different part of our life. And where that usually pops out is drinking, drug use, smoking weed, thinking you need the 50-second ayahuasca trip or psilocybin journey. What else does it look like? It looks like over scrolling on your phone and staring at the TV all day long and watching a bajillion YouTube videos. That's the other thing. You can think you're doing good habits when really you're just numbing out the real thing going on. So you become an information junkie. You watch, you were like me when I was 20, fucking 300 books in and still not changing your life. We do these things. What else do? We do porn. We become a sex addict, and we start trying to fill the void with endless new women in our life. None of these things fucking work because they don't actually address the root issue. They're just coping mechanisms. And working harder is not working. It's not actually creating the life you want. Even when you do get the success, you still don't feel fulfilled. You make progress and you still feel like shit. And that's the problem. That's the problem I was facing, and I saw it so clearly when I heard this talk. And I started searching, how do I develop a philosophy that addresses both of these sides? That addresses, there's a time and place to raise your fucking game and raise your standards. And also there's a time and place to address some of the inner things and some of the things that we dealt with as children and some of the more softer side of life, so to speak. Both have their place, but so few know how to find the harmony between the two, to walk between the two pillars and step into that temple of the life that you're actually looking to create. And what I've found is a system. I've actually spent years and well over $1 million on my own personal growth, $1 million on my personal growth, and multiple millions of lost business opportunities, and gone through suicidal thoughts and my relationships falling apart and all of these things. I went through all of these things so you don't have to. You can just take the system that I've put together to actually navigate in between these seeming paradoxes and live a life that's not so hard, that actually ends up being, if I'm truthful, a lot of fun. I'm out here hanging out. Look at this beautiful view. I'm in Laguna Beach. Got this spot on the beach. It's incredible. I get to do this because I'm passionate about it, not because I have to. I don't have to work hard for money. I get to do things I'm passionate about for money. I don't have to micromanage my team today. My team's handling a bunch of shit. I don't need to micromanage them. I've got my team shipping my Lamborghini over from Nashville. I didn't have to do any of that. It's just going to show up in my driveway. I'll have a guy come detail it. It's all of my stuff, all the stuff I don't like doing in my life's taken care of. And I get to focus on living a life I'm actually passionate about. I get to work on things I care about. And my question for you is, when's the last time you got to spend 90% of your workday on something that you really gave a shit about, that you actually have fun doing? Or are you stuck in worrying about how you get the next dollar? Are you stuck in feeling like you need to micromanage your team? Are you stuck in not even knowing what to do next and having 1,000 great ideas and not actually executing on any of them? Are you stuck in any of that? Are you sick of living like that? Because I know I was when I was living that way, and you don't have to. And you can think to yourself, oh yeah, but okay, I get it, Parker, I get it. If you get it, then hear me out, because it's exactly where I was. I thought I got it. I had heard all the messages. I had taken all the courses, and still I blew my fucking life up because I didn't actually get it. And the hallmark of knowing if you get it or not is that you look at the results in your life. What are the results? Do you actually have the life you want? Are you making the amount of money you want? Are you driving the car you want? Are you traveling the way you want? Do you have the level of freedom in your business that you want, that you can take time off and your business still works? Do you have the relationships you want? How's your intimate life going? Do you have a passionate relationship with a beautiful woman? Or are you struggling to find a relationship? How is your fitness going? Do you look in the mirror and say, hey, man, you look like a Greek god? Or you say, fuck, you look a little flabby, but I don't really have the time to deal with this because I'm so busy trying to work harder. Seriously, are you living the life you want or not? Because if you're not living the life you want, then you're not navigating between the two pillars, and you need a different system. Now, I've devoted my life to building a system that works, and I've shared it with a lot of men now, hundreds of men at this point, and the results have been extraordinary. I have guys regularly getting in the best shape of their lives, doubling, often 5 or 10xing their income, like guys who come in making 15 grand a month, and next thing you know, they're having $150,000 months. Guys getting engaged to their partners and having beautiful, passionate relationships. Guys starting families. Guys reconciling relationships with their children that have been estranged for a long time. All these things are happening because they're navigating between the pillars, not stuck on an extreme version on either side. And the challenge is, and where I had gone wrong for so long and what I didn't understand, is the solution to this is wrapped up in what I call the 4 M's. Now, the 4 M's are mentors, mastermind, mindset, and methods. Now, these are all things that you've probably heard before. Again, I'm not here to say I have some, how do I put it, some radically new concept for you that you've never heard before. What I am trying to say is that the way you've been approaching things is probably, 5% off. But that 5% over time and distance is creating a lot of friction in your life, and it's manifesting in results you don't like. And there's a specific way I approach methods, mindset, masterminding, and mentors that I've come to put together in a very specific sequence with a specific blueprint of how to operate in those different areas of your life such that you can actually create the life you want. A life that has radical success, but that you don't have to struggle for it. A life that acknowledges that, hey, there's a time to go kick ass and take things really seriously and level up. And there's also a time for a softer side of life. And to acknowledge if we don't address the softer side of life, we often end up behaving like the little boy that we're not nurturing and acknowledging within. We often end up behaving like a 5-year-old. You ever gotten mad at someone and been like, holy shit, I was kind of an asshole? It's like, yeah, because you're behaving like a 5-year-old because you haven't addressed the 5-year-old within yourself. Or have you ever noticed yourself struggling to work harder? Well, that's the 15-year-old inside of you that learned that when he's successful in the world, he'll finally feel good enough. And now you're behaving as him, as a grown fucking man, and wondering why you're always in burnout. You need to address all these things, but finding the right harmony between those things is almost impossible on your own. I remember when my mentor, Bob Proctor, said, you got to do it yourself, but you can't do it alone. And that resonates as so freaking true. Yes, you have to address all these things on your own, but you're never going to see how to find harmony in a silo on your own. You need a peer group of men around you. You need mentors who have gone this path before. And then you need to insert that into your mindset, into how you're thinking, how you're thinking about your business, how you're thinking about finding leverage in your business, building teams and systems, and not just working harder, but doing it in a way that actually leverages your time. Work smarter, don't work harder. A metaphor a lot of the time I use is, why are you rowing your boat upstream when you could be using your sails and going with the current? It doesn't make sense, but so many people don't have this. They're just working harder. That's what the power of mentorship into your mindset in business looks like. What about having what about your physical and your mindset around that? What about your emotions and your relationships? How do you approach those? How do you think about them? All this talking is getting me coughing a little bit. But I'm passionate about this. It's a big deal because I know how much pain it created in my life when I didn't have this sorted. And what about the methods? What do I mean by methods? I mean the specific practices in your life, the things you're doing on repeat, and don't miss this. Most of your life's on autopilot. 98% of your day you're just doing on repeat. And if you don't think you are, you're definitely doing it. So check it. And check if your habits are actually, your repeated things are actually creating what you want. And again, you've heard a lot of this stuff for a long time. Traditional personal development, all the men's success coaches, or the softer stuff, the Brené Browns of the world who are saying you need to be vulnerable. All this stuff is good stuff. But the challenge is so many people get siloed into obsession on one part of it and miss the bigger picture. And if you're missing the bigger picture, if you don't know how to balance and find harmony between the two pillars, the seeming paradoxes, that you're juggling all the balls and you don't know how to find harmony between them, and you're dropping some of them and you're always catching one of them, but now you're getting burnt out from that one ball, that's the shit where it goes wrong. There's a lot of good ideas out there. Again, I spent over $1 million trying to learn them all. I read hundreds and hundreds of books. I watched thousands of hours of YouTube videos. I did 500 hours of therapy, and I still couldn't figure this shit out because I kept missing the harmony, the middle way, the place between the two pillars into the temple. And this is what I've figured out. This is how I approach those 4 M's that's really unique. It's a system, I call it true momentum. It actually creates real momentum in your life instead of this false sense of momentum created by a false sense of success, created by a facade of success instead of the real thing. And if you're sick of living in the facade of success, if you want real momentum in your life, true momentum, then you need to start following this system because it's radically different than how anyone else approaches it on the market. I know because I've tried them all. And what I've found over years of putting this together, of implementing it in my own life, of helping other men do the exact same system, that it creates extraordinary life. It creates a life of purpose. It creates a life of meaning. It creates a life of feeling like things are actually working and that it's sustainable. That you're not always on this roller coaster of you get a little boom, but next thing you know, it's a bust. If you're sick of living that way, if you want some more consistency in your life, if you actually want to create long-term success and fulfillment instead of just temporary wins and feeling like you're always struggling and always behind and always just feeling like you never actually arrive, if you're sick of that and you actually want to create the wealth you want, the relationships you want, if you want to drive the car you want, if you want to travel the way you want, if you want to have the beautiful family you want, if you want that shit and you want it to actually last, and you don't want to feel like it's empty when you get there and not sabotage it when you get certain pieces of it, then you need this system. And the unique way of doing this system and why it works so well is that it's all built in. You have a mentor who's gone this path before. You have a peer group of brothers who are doing the same thing, have a big vision like you, and understand the system so they can point to you. And this is a key piece that people miss. You have to do it yourself. Yeah, sure, you need certain methods, certain things on repeat, and you need to reprogram those and do them in a new way. And I have very specific habits that I recommend. And you need to think about them in the right ways. That's all on you. But the truth is you're gonna drift, you're gonna get off course. And if you do not have people around you to say, hey bro, tweak it this way. Hey man, why didn't you show up consistently there? You said you were going to. If you don't have this constant feedback loop of people helping you with the personal work, that understand the whole big picture, it's impossible to find your way. You end up just getting stuck. You end up taking 10 years and $1 million like I did, instead of 1 year and a small fraction of the investment to get there. And that's the difference. And that's what true momentum is. It's something I'm so passionate about because it's changed my life so much. It's created incredible results with the people I've shared it with. And I'm creating this video because I want to share it with more people. I've been kind of keeping it under wraps. I've been developing for a lot of years, and it's ready to be released to more people. It's ready for a more public stance on it, and that's why I'm creating videos like this. So if this video has resonated with you, if you want to create real momentum in your life, then reach out. Click the link around this page, or just comment True Momentum around this video, and it will send you to a place where you can learn more about what it would look like to implement this system in your life. And we can just have a genuine conversation of like, hey, where are you at? Where you want to go? Will this actually work for you? And what would it look like to start implementing that? And if you're interested in that, follow up. It should be easy to reach me wherever this video is, and we'll talk, and we'll have a deeper conversation around this. So the last thing I want to leave you with is, you've come this far. You've listened to a relatively long video, and I don't want you to be in the place that I was so many years of just being an information addict. Don't go watch another video. Don't go read another book. You listened this far because this resonated and you found a solution. So actually choose to make a difference. Choose to learn more about this system. Choose to actually make a decision that you're going to change things and do things differently. Because so often we're presented with an opportunity, but we're not willing to make a firm decision of, this is enough. I remember the time in my life, and I had to wait for my life it was the moment that I found out my fiance had cheated. We were 5 months out from being married. I was about to start my family. I had all these plans. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, how the fuck did this happen? And in that moment I said, no more bullshit. No more bullshit. No more am I going to live in a bullshit way. And I started addressing all the other things in my life. I started peeling apart the business relationships that weren't working. And I moved countries, and I did all these things to create congruence in my life, to create a life that I actually wanted. And I started building it on these new foundational principles. But I had to get to a rock bottom place to do that. And the cool thing about a rock bottom place is we get to choose what our rock bottom looks like. You can wait till your life was completely in shambles like I did, or you can say, now things are pretty good, things aren't that bad, but I've had enough and I don't want to let it get really bad, and I'm sick of struggling and feeling burnt out and feeling like even though I'm working my ass off, I'm still not creating the life I want. If you're sick of that, if you've had enough, then make a decision right now. Actually choose to make a change. Because the opportunities here, I've helped a lot of guys with this, I've changed my own life with it, and I can help you with it too. So click the link or reach out and let's have a real conversation. Let's actually change our lives instead of just thinking about it. That's the invitation. Step into it. You got this. Excited to chat soon. Ciao.